A stranger noticed a little girl playing by herself in the park and considered her vulnerable. He attempted to lure her with ice cream and nearly succeeded, but he made a critical error. He failed to recognize the dog next to her was a retired police canine. The ensuing events stunned everyone at the playground. Before we share today's story, please leave a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy compelling police dog stories such as this one, please subscribe to stay updated. Exciting content is coming soon. The sound of children's laughter drifted across Oak Ridge Community Park on a spring breeze, as families gathered for the first genuinely warm Saturday of the season. 7-year-old Lily Chan ran across the playground, her dark pigtails bouncing with each step, a German shepherd trotting faithfully at her side. "Ranger, catch!" Lily called out, throwing a well-worn tennis ball in the direction of the oak trees that gave the park its name. The dog's powerful muscles coiled and released as he bounded after it, his movements fluid and precise. Unlike the other pets that occasionally visited the park, Ranger didn't just run. He moved with purpose, each stride calculated and efficient. Lily's mother, Rebecca, smiled from her bench, briefly looking up from her book to watch her daughter and dog play their endless game of fetch. What started as a temporary fostering arrangement 18 months ago had swiftly become permanent. Ranger had evolved from a recovering police canine to an integral part of their family. "Mom, did you see how high he jumped?" Lily exclaimed, her face radiant with pride as Ranger returned. The tennis ball was firmly in his mouth, his head held high as if he were displaying a trophy. "I saw, sweetie," Rebecca responded, shielding her eyes from the sun. "He's showing off for you today." Rebecca omitted the fact that she'd observed a change in Ranger's behavior over the last few minutes. His ears had risen, and his posture had subtly transitioned from relaxed to alert. He had twice halted their game to survey the edges of the playground, his dark eyes concentrating especially on the group of trees close to the park entrance. Ranger released the ball near Lily's feet, but didn't retreat to resume their game. Rather than moving, he stayed standing, his focus directed towards something or someone past the playground. A man had been observing from the shadow of a large oak for almost 15 minutes, sometimes looking at his phone but consistently returning his look to the children. When Lily reached down to get the ball, Ranger shifted, placing himself between her and the figure in the distance. The slight change escaped the notice of both mother and daughter, but it was intentional, a defensive posture developed from years of training and intuition. Ranger's ears moved forward, registering sounds imperceptible to human hearing, his nose analyzing the air with shallow, measured inhalations. The stranger shifted his baseball cap and advanced a step. Ranger's muscles tightened under his heavy coat, a soft growl building in his chest that Lily couldn't detect. The day began like any other spring Saturday, but a shift was noticeable in the air. Ranger felt it, and he was determined to protect Lily. Before we proceed, please share in the comments where you are watching from. Subscribe to the channel because tomorrow at the same time, we will present another unforgettable story of heroism and sacrifice from the world's most extraordinary canines. 19 months prior, Officer Jason Rivera had been seated beside a hospital bed at Metro Veterinary Emergency Center, his calloused hand resting softly on his partner's sedated body. The German Shepherd's powerful build appeared somewhat diminished under the medical coverings, and foreline extending into his front leg, new stitches indicating where surgeons had dedicated hours mending injuries from 2 bullets. "He protected everyone in that room," Rivera told the veterinarian, his voice strained with feeling. The suspect was apprehended despite officers being struck twice. The drug bust rapidly devolved within seconds. What should have been a standard warrant execution became a firefight when the suspects detected they were trapped. Rivera's team was initially held down until Ranger, disregarding his own injuries, moved towards the primary shooter, creating an opportunity for the officers. Ranger would recover, according to the doctor's assessment, but his career as an active police canine had concluded. The injury to his left hip would result in a slight limp, barely noticeable to those who didn't know him well, but sufficient to conclude a notable 5-year career. Upon learning of Ranger's circumstances, Rebecca Chen, a social worker who sometimes worked with the police department, volunteered to provide him with temporary foster care. They cautioned her that the German Shepherd was intense, displaying a high drive and not typically suited as a family pet. However, Rebecca, a single mother raising a daughter in a neighborhood experiencing rising property crime, believed a retired police dog could be a beneficial addition. The initial weeks proved difficult. Ranger patrolled the house like a guard, scrutinizing windows and doors, and struggled to adapt to a life outside of police work. He slept minimally, remaining constantly vigilant, as if anticipating his next task. A thunderstorm arrived, marking a significant moment. 6-year-old Lily, who was afraid of storms, had retreated to her closet, crying as thunder rattled their small house. Rebecca discovered Ranger already present, curled around her daughter, his body shielding Lily from the door, his eyes watching over her with a calm and reassuring gaze. An enduring connection was forged that night. Having been trained to protect the public, Ranger discovered a new purpose with a small girl who called him her furry guardian. Though retired, Ranger never completely ceased being a police dog. He continued to perform perimeter checks of their home nightly, still responded to the subtle commands Rivera had taught him, still watched for threats that others might miss. Back at the playground, Rebecca's phone buzzed with an urgent call from work. She responded, her gaze shifting to watch Lily and Ranger play near the slide. "I know it's Saturday," she said, lowering her voice and stepping a few feet away, ensuring Lily remained visible. A man had approached, settling onto a bench with a direct line of sight to the playground. He appeared to be in his mid-30s with a nondescript look, wearing jeans, a light jacket despite the warmth, and a blue baseball cap pulled low. There was nothing overtly suspicious about him, aside from the fact that he carried no toys or baby equipment, was not with a child, and yet had spent almost 30 minutes observing the playground with deliberate attention. Ranger observed him. Each time Lily ran to the slide, the man's head would turn to follow her, noting his location. When she moved toward the swings, getting nearer to where the stranger was sitting, Ranger dropped the tennis ball completely and remained within 2 feet of her, his actions relaxed but intentional. "Look, Ranger. See how high I can go." Lily pumped her legs on the swing, reaching for the sky. 3 benches away, the man stood, stretching casually before making his way toward the ice cream cart that had just arrived at the park entrance. 15 minutes later, he returned, now carrying 2 ice cream cones. He surveyed the playground before taking a new position, this one even closer to the swings. "Excuse me," he called to Lily as she dragged her feet in the wood chips to slow her swing. "I mistakenly received an extra strawberry cone. My nephew decided he no longer wanted it. Would you like it? It would be unfortunate to discard such good ice cream." Ranger's ears flattened instantly, his tail changing from a relaxed wag to a stiff posture. He moved directly in front of Lily as she hopped off the swing. "My mom says I'm not supposed to accept things from strangers," Lily replied, looking at the melting cone with evident desire. The man smiled, but the expression didn't fully reach his eyes. "Kind woman. But I'm not really unfamiliar now that we're speaking. Correct? I'm Mike. What's your name?" Ranger shifted slightly. To someone inexperienced, he might have seemed merely focused, but the stiffness in his hindquarters and the minor forward distribution of his weight conveyed a different narrative. He was bracing. "I'm Lily. That's my dog, Ranger," she indicated proudly. "A pleasant dog," the man, Mike, remarked, although his voice implied otherwise. "Why don't you come over here for the ice cream? You are welcome to bring your dog." Rebecca, still engaged in a phone call, proceeded towards a crying toddler who had tripped close by. She briefly turned away as she assisted the child in locating his mother while simultaneously managing her phone conversation. "Ranger goes with me wherever I go," Lily stated, taking a step back. The dog, now seemingly hesitant, mirrored her movement precisely, staying positioned between her and the unfamiliar person. Mike's face showed a slight, almost unnoticed change. "Because I'm allergic to dogs. Could you please just come over quickly? It won't take long." Ranger then made a sound, not a growl, but a low rumble of warning that Lily had never heard before. She took another step back, her hand instinctively finding the dog's fur. "I think my mom is calling me," she said, though Rebecca was still occupied with her phone call. A commotion erupted near the playground entrance as a mother frantically called for help. Her son had seemingly climbed too high on the jungle gym and was now frozen in fear, unable to move. Rebecca, still on her important call, but always the social worker, hurried over to help, casting a quick glance toward Lily. "Stay right by the swings, sweetie. I'll be right back," she called. The stranger's posture changed instantly. His shoulders straightened, his gaze sharpened, and he moved with new purpose, discarding one ice cream cone in a nearby trash can while maintaining his grip on the other. "Your mom's going to be busy for a while?" he observed, his voice taking on a confidential tone as he approached Lily directly. "I have more than ice cream in my car. I got a new puppy too. Much cuter than this old dog. Do you want to see him?" Ranger's hackles rose visibly now, the fur along his spine standing on end. His mouth remained composed, his discipline preventing such a blatant reaction. Yet his gaze remained fixed on the man's hands, noting each minor shift. "Mom says I have to stay here," Lily responded, now feeling uneasy, her first pleasantness giving way to the wariness her mother had taught her regarding unfamiliar people. "It'll just take a minute," the man asserted, his smile unwavering but his tone becoming stricter. "The puppy might run away if we don't hurry." He advanced another step, and Ranger emitted a clear, commanding bark that caught the notice of several parents in the vicinity. The man paused, looking around to assess if the bark had drawn undue attention. "Your dog appears aggressive," he stated, projecting his voice for anyone who might be observing. "You really ought to keep him leashed." A woman maneuvering a stroller nearby stopped, her gaze shifting between Lily, Ranger, and the stranger with a worried expression. "Are you all right?" Turning to Lily, she spoke instead of the man. "I'm fine," Lily replied, her voice hesitant. This man was talking about his puppy, but Ranger doesn't seem to like him. The stranger immediately adopted a polished, charming tone. "Just making conversation while enjoying the park," he said to the woman. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" The woman paused, seemingly unconvinced, but after a brief moment, she resumed pushing her stroller, albeit at a reduced speed, and occasionally looked back. Once she had created a noticeable space, the man's focus returned to Lily, his voice lowered to an urgent whisper. "Listen, kid, the puppy is truly special. He performs tricks, significantly better tricks than your dog, but he's timid, so we need to leave right now while your mom is occupied." Lily took another step back, bumping into the swing set. "I don't want to see your puppy. I want my mom." The stranger's face hardened, the appearance of friendliness disappearing. "Look, we can do this the easy way." Ranger shifted, a seamless movement that positioned him directly before Lily, his stance broadening into the recognizable posture of a trained police K-9 readying to address a potential danger. The change was striking. The family pet had vanished, superseded by the law enforcement officer he was trained to be. Across the playground, Rebecca was assisting the frightened boy as he descended from the jungle gym. Her back remained turned to what was happening near the swings. Rebecca concluded assisting the distressed boy and quickly returned to Lily, concluding her work call. "Sorry about that, sweetie," she said. "An emergency at work and then that poor little boy." She paused, observing Lily's apprehensive look and Ranger's watchful stance. "Is everything all right?" Before Lily could respond, the stranger reappeared, advancing from a different direction with increased confidence. A dog treat was clearly visible in his hand. "Hey there, Lily," he called, as if they knew each other well. "I discovered something your dog might enjoy." A gesture of goodwill. Rebecca visibly tensed. "Pardon me, are you known to us?" The man offered a friendly smile. "Mike, I was just speaking with your daughter while you were assisting with that matter nearby. She mentioned your dog's name is Ranger, a magnificent animal." Ranger remained alert, not relaxing his watchful stance, even with the treat presented. His training included precautions against contaminated food. He would never accept treats from anyone except his designated handlers. "I don't recall giving you permission to speak with my daughter," Rebecca stated calmly, positioning a protective arm around Lily's shoulders. The man's smile remained unchanged. "Just being friendly, kids enjoy talking about their pets." He took a casual step closer, extending the treat toward Ranger. "Here, boy. No hard feelings, right?" Ranger didn't move, didn't even glance at the offered food. His gaze remained fixed on the man's face with unnerving intensity. He doesn't take food from strangers, Lily explained, pride mixing with relief in her voice. As Rebecca reached into her pocket for the leash, the stranger made his move. With shocking speed, he lunged forward, shoving Rebecca aside while simultaneously grabbing for Lily's arm. "Come on, kid." What happened next unfolded in mere seconds. Ranger exploded into action, a blur of precision and controlled power. He did not attack, at least not yet, but instead employed his body as a battering ram, impacting the man's midsection with sufficient force to loosen his hold on Lily without causing him to fall. The stranger recoiled, his eyes widening in surprise at the strategic response. This was not the behavior of an animal protecting its person. This was a deliberate action. He expressed astonishment, reaching into his jacket pocket. Ranger swiftly shifted to a defensive stance, adopting a posture easily identifiable to law enforcement, an angled approach with his head lowered, readying for a potential confrontation. As the man produced a small canister from his pocket, seemingly pepper spray, Ranger's training took over completely. The German Shepherd advanced with accuracy, securing his jaws around the man's wrist with precise force, sufficient to dislodge the canister without causing injury. The police canine delivered a controlled bite, intended to restrain rather than injure. The individual cried out in pain and shock, attempting to dislodge the dog. "Get him off me! This dog is attacking me!" The disturbance had quickly attracted the attention of those present. Multiple parents retrieved phones, some contacting 911, while others documented the developing situation. A park security guard arrived, radio in hand. "What's going on here?" he asked. "This man tried to grab my daughter," Rebecca called out, drawing Lily to safety behind her. "The dog's crazy," the stranger insisted, still struggling against Ranger's hold. "I was just being friendly." Ranger held firm, seemingly unimpressed by the man's attempts to escape. His training was clear in his stance. He wasn't reacting with uncontrolled aggression, but adhering to procedures learned through thousands of hours of police work. The security guard paused, uncertain about how to manage the situation involving the dog. "Madam, could you please call off your dog?" Rebecca found she didn't know the correct command. Lily, however, recalled something Officer Rivera had taught her. "Ranger, hold," she stated firmly. To everyone's surprise, Ranger immediately shifted from an active bite to maintaining a grip, becoming almost motionless while still effectively restraining the man without causing further injury. The security guard called for police assistance via radio, carefully maintaining space from Ranger, who continued to restrain the struggling stranger. Spectators quickly moved their children, creating a clear area around the unfolding situation. "Police are responding," the guard announced. "Everyone stay still." The stranger, however, had a different course of action. With a swift and urgent maneuver, he sharply hit Ranger across the muzzle with his available hand. The impact loosened the dog's grip for a brief instant, providing the man the opportunity he required. He quickly rose and ran towards the parking lot, abandoning a dropped wallet and keys in his haste. Rebecca held Lily near, uncertain if she should feel relieved or worried that the danger was retreating. Her question was answered instantly by Ranger, who disengaged from the impact and focused his attention on the fleeing suspect. "Should I instruct him to pursue?" Lily observed, noticing her dog's muscles tighten in anticipation. Before Rebecca could respond, Ranger acted decisively. The German Shepherd surged forward, rapidly covering the distance. This was unlike the playful running he exhibited during their games of fetch. It mirrored the intense pursuit of a police K-9 tracking a fleeing suspect. The stranger looked over his shoulder, fear evident on his face as he realized the dog was quickly closing in. He maneuvered between parked cars, attempting to create barriers, but Ranger expertly navigated the parking lot, utilizing precise angles to reduce the gap. A blue sedan's door was suddenly opened as the man reached what appeared to be his vehicle. He made a dash for the driver's seat, but Ranger was quicker. The German Shepherd executed a controlled takedown, knocking the man to the asphalt before he could enter the car. This time, Ranger did not bite. He circled the fallen suspect, emitting vocalizations with the precise rhythm instructed for police K-9s upon successfully cornering a subject. a sound intended to intimidate while officers approached. Rebecca pursued them, pulling Lily along and urgently searching for security or police. Several bystanders followed at a distance, using smartphones to record the intense pursuit. "That dog moved like it was trained for this," one man remarked in amazement. The man attempted to get up, but Ranger's imposing stance held him down. The dog moved in a continuous pattern, denying any opportunity, employing strategies that blocked escape without needing to touch him. Two park security personnel arrived, shortly after the sound of police sirens could be heard. Rebecca felt drained with relief as patrol cars entered the parking lot. As officers neared, Ranger's behavior changed slightly. The dog's barking pattern shifted, appearing as if he recognized the uniforms and was now communicating with them, instead of merely containing the suspect. "Is that a police K-9? One officer began, observing Ranger's tactical movements with clear understanding. "He used to be," Rebecca explained breathlessly. "He's retired." Meanwhile, the officer secured the suspect, who continued to protest his innocence even as they discovered a roll of duct tape, zip ties, and a hunting knife in his jacket pockets. "I'm telling you, I didn't do anything wrong," the man protested as handcuffs snapped shut. "I was just being friendly with the kid. The dog attacked me without provocation." One officer, while checking the man's pockets, exchanged a significant glance with his colleague. "Sure, friendly guys carry restraints and hunting knives to the playground." As they escorted him towards the patrol car, one officer halted, observing Ranger with a closer look. "Hold on. Is that Ranger, Rivera's old partner?" Rebecca responded, visibly surprised. "Yes, we adopted him after his retirement." "Are you familiar with him?" The officer shook his head in amazement. "Familiar with him? This dog is a legend within the department. I was still in the academy when he dismantled the Wilson drug ring, sustained 2 bullets, and still apprehended the suspect." Ranger had returned to Lily's side, his mission complete, transitioning seamlessly back to being a protective family pet. The transformation was remarkable. The intensity that had characterized his work was now replaced by gentle attentiveness. "I should call Rivera," the officer stated, reaching for his radio. "He's going to want to hear about this." 3 police cruisers formed a perimeter around the section of the parking lot where the attempted abduction suspect was seated, handcuffed in the back of a patrol car. Officers questioned witnesses as crime scene technicians documented evidence from the man's vehicle, which they accessed after securing a warrant. Rebecca was seated on a bench close to the playground, an emergency blanket covering her shoulders. Although the weather was temperate, she was in shock as the full meaning of what could have occurred registered with her. Lily sat next to her, one arm around her mother and the other hand nestled in Ranger's fur. The German Shepherd had remained by her side since the officers had processed him as a witness, an uncommon but fitting action given his involvement in the event. A police SUV arrived, and a man dressed casually but displaying a clear presence of law enforcement emerged. He quickly surveyed the area before his gaze settled on Ranger. A broad smile spread across his face. "Rivera's here," one of the uniformed officers stated. Officer Jason Rivera swiftly crossed the parking lot, his attention focused solely on the German Shepherd sitting protectively beside Lily. Upon seeing his former handler, Ranger's ears rose, and his posture adjusted slightly. "There's my partner," Rivera said, his voice filled with emotion as he moved closer. He paused at a polite distance, seeking permission from Rebecca. She nodded, and Rivera knelt, offering his hand, palm up, in a particular gesture. Ranger instantly recognized the signal, pressing his nose to Rivera's palm before allowing the officer to ruffle the fur around his neck in a practiced motion. "Still got it, don't you, boy?" Rivera murmured, examining the dog carefully for any injuries from the confrontation. Finding none, he turned to Lily. "Has he been taking good care of you?" Lily nodded, her eyes wide. "He saved me from the bad man." Rivera's expression grew serious. "That's what he was trained to do. Best partner I ever had." Detective Morales presented an evidence bag. Addressing Officer Rivera, Morales stated, "Since you're familiar with Ranger's training, we'd like your professional assessment." The suspect insists he was simply being friendly, and the dog attacked without provocation. Rivera rose, carefully inspecting the evidence bag's contents. Duct tape, zip ties, and a hunting knife, his expression hardening. Ranger is trained to identify threatening behavior patterns. He does not react to friendly civilians. If he engaged, a threat was present. The detective affirmed. That was my understanding. We checked the suspect's license plate. Thomas Mercer was wanted in 2 states for attempted child abductions. The methods were strikingly similar, approaching children in parks, then offering ice cream or telling stories about puppies. Rebecca held Lily near, feeling a chill as she realized how narrowly they had avoided becoming another statistic. As night fell, the police completed processing the scene. Thomas Mercer was taken to the county lockup, and detectives were already linking him to 3 other attempted abductions across state lines. A search of his vehicle uncovered compelling evidence, including restraints, a weapon, and a small collection of children's items, likely trophies from past victims or potential bait for future ones. Local news crews arrived, prompted by social media videos depicting a hero dog that had prevented a kidnapping. Rebecca had refused interview requests, worried about increasing Lily's stress, but was unable to stop the video from circulating online. Clips of Ranger's professional takedown and the suspect's containment had already become widely shared. Officer Rivera was seated with the Chun family on a bench away from the press, Ranger resting at their feet, seemingly oblivious to his sudden fame. I never realized, Rebecca said softly, observing her daughter tenderly petting the dog's ears. I was aware he received training, but I didn't fully grasp the extent of his capabilities. Rivera nodded in agreement. Many assume police dogs are simply trained to bite when instructed. However, it's considerably more complex, particularly with dogs such as Ranger. What distinguishes him? Lily inquired, looking up with curiosity.
Rivera smiled.
Ranger participated in a specialized program designed to teach canines to identify particular behavioral patterns. He doesn't solely react to commands. He is capable of recognizing potential dangers through observation of body language, tone of voice, and movement patterns. Rebecca remembered how Ranger had placed himself between Lily and the stranger even before any clear threat became apparent. He perceived a problem before the rest of us did. Rivera agreed, stating that during his service, Ranger was able to differentiate between someone feeling anxious due to police visibility and someone posing a real danger. His training likely saved Lily's life today. Detective Morales came forward, holding a tablet. Mrs. Chun, we've obtained Mercer's background information. I felt you should be aware of what Ranger helped avert. The detective displayed a file outlining Mercer's history, revealing a disturbing pattern of approaching children in public areas, sometimes resulting in successful abductions with devastating consequences. The most recent incident occurred just 2 weeks prior in a neighboring county. Morales explained grimly that he has been operating throughout the region for nearly 3 years, skillfully evading tracking by frequently changing jurisdictions. Detective Morales added that the department would like to formally acknowledge Ranger's actions. We typically reserve commendations for active-duty canines, he stated, but this is a special circumstance. Would you be willing to bring him to a small ceremony next week? Rebecca observed Ranger, an animal who had evolved into so much more than a pet, a protector, a guardian, a silent sentinel, who had detected danger when others had not. Naturally, she concurred he warrants recognition. As they commenced preparations to depart the park, Rivera crouched beside Ranger one last time, delicately scratching behind his ears in a manner that induced the dog's eyes to partially close with satisfaction. You never ceased being a police officer, did you, boy? He said. Ranger received a new patrol area. He looked from Rivera to Lily, his posture communicating what words couldn't express, that he had discovered his new purpose, his new person to safeguard. The retired canine officer now had a smaller jurisdiction, but he patrolled it with the same dedication he'd always demonstrated on the streets. Have you ever noticed your dog sensing something long before you did? Animals possess instincts that humans have largely lost through generations of civilization. The capacity to perceive danger, to understand intentions, to interpret the faint cues that predators and threats release before an attack. Ranger's narrative isn't solely about a former police dog recalling his training during a crucial situation. It's about the extraordinary connection between people and dogs, a partnership that extends back millennia to when our ancestors first recognized that wolves could evolve into guardians, friends, and expansions of our own restricted senses. Consider this. Have you ever noticed your pet reacting to something beyond your perception? How often have you disregarded an animal's alert because it contradicted what your human senses indicated? Maybe there's value in trusting these creatures who experience the world differently. We'd be interested in reading your stories in the comments below. Has your dog ever shielded you from danger? Have you ever observed an animal detecting something humans overlooked? Please let us know where you are watching from and tell us about your experience. We review all comments. If Ranger's story resonated with you, please subscribe and enable notifications to ensure you don't miss future stories of canine heroism. Our channel focuses on sharing these amazing stories of the partnership between people and their canine companions. Give this video a thumbs up if you feel dogs like Ranger should be acknowledged for their service, both during and outside of duty. Pass this along to friends and family who could benefit from a reminder that protection often arrives in unexpected ways. Watch our previous videos, now appearing on your screen. These stories feature military canines who saved their platoons, search and rescue dogs who found survivors despite seemingly insurmountable challenges, and therapy dogs who helped heal profound emotional wounds. Keep in mind, behind every exceptional dog is a human who understood their potential. Years of training, trust, and the strong connection between handler and canine are essential for every heroic act. Occasionally, within a typical family pet resides an exceptional heart, ready to demonstrate its courage. Please stay safe, pet your dogs, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time with another brand new video. A little girl sat silently in the courtroom, rehearsed and controlled. However, one secret signal to a police dog prompted him to charge forward, halting the court proceedings. What transpired next shocked the judge and altered everything. Before we delve into today's story, please leave a comment below indicating where in the world you're watching from. And if you enjoy compelling police dog stories such as this one, please click that subscribe button. You won't want to miss future episodes. A stark light from the fluorescent fixtures in courtroom 7B illuminated the gleaming oak and the serious expressions of those present at the downtown Chicago courthouse. Judge Eleanor Wilson's chambers had witnessed numerous custody disputes, yet this particular case created a palpable sense of tension. Officer Ryan Mitchell straightened his uniform collar, his steel blue eyes observing the room with a practiced and observant gaze. Next to him, Apollo, his 4-year-old German Shepherd partner, remained perfectly still, his dark coat reflecting the light of the courtroom. "All rise," announced the bailiff, as the Honorable Judge Eleanor Wilson took her place to preside over the case of Anderson versus Ellis. Officer Mitchell observed Apollo's ears move slightly forward, a subtle change that would likely go unnoticed by others. After 3 years working together in Chicago's K-9 unit, Mitchell had become adept at recognizing every nuance in Apollo's body language. Something had piqued the dog's interest. Mitchell followed Apollo's gaze to a small figure seated in the front row. 8-year-old Lily Anderson sat with impeccable posture, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes focused on the worn tile floor. Her navy dress and white cardigan appeared overly formal for a child of her age. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun, accentuating the paleness of her face. While many children would be restless during court proceedings, she remained strikingly still. Beside her sat Claire Anderson, her mother, whose tired eyes and chewed fingernails revealed weeks of sleeplessness. Across from them was Marcus Ellis, a Chicago business mogul, stepfather of 3 years, and projecting an image of calm assurance in his well-fitted charcoal suit. His hand rested deliberately on the back of Lily's chair. Apollo stiffened a little, a shift so slight that only Mitchell observed it. The dog's training was flawless. He had remained composed during hostage negotiations, drug busts, and active shooter scenarios. However, something about this sterile courtroom or someone present had roused his vigilance. "Today we continue the custody hearing for Lily Anderson," Judge Wilson announced, her voice sharp against the quiet whispers. "I remind everyone that my sole concern is the welfare of the child." 21 days prior, Mitchell was conducting Apollo's routine weekly tracking drills at Jefferson Park. The crisp autumn morning air held the fragrance of moist soil and dropped leaves as Apollo navigated the obstacle course, his strong muscles moving with graceful accuracy. "That's it, boy," Mitchell had said as Apollo swiftly found the concealed training aid in a personal best time. "Perfect." Colleagues frequently quipped that Mitchell seemed to comprehend dogs more effectively than people. At the age of 34, following 12 years in law enforcement and the last 3 in the K-9 unit, he had earned a reputation for quiet effectiveness instead of engaging in professional socializing. His divorce 2 years prior had only strengthened his dedication to his work and to Apollo. On that Tuesday, they were concluding training exercises when the dispatch arrived, a standard welfare check on a child, prompted by a teacher's observation of concerning behavior changes, a situation that would not usually necessitate a K-9 unit. They were, however, the nearest to the residence, a luxurious townhouse in Lincoln Park. Claire Anderson opened the door, appearing initially surprised by the police dog until Mitchell clarified that Apollo was his partner. "He's completely harmless to civilians, ma'am," he reassured her as they entered a home that seemed like it could have appeared in an architectural publication. It was then that he first encountered Lily, cautiously observing from behind the staircase, her small face illuminating at the sight of Apollo despite her mother's apparent distress. "Lily has been experiencing difficulties recently," Claire had confided, speaking quietly. Her teacher had noted that she's become withdrawn at school, no longer participating as she once did. Mitchell had watched as Lily approached Apollo with a caution that appeared rooted in both fascination and fear. What he found remarkable was Apollo's reaction. The dog was focused intently on the child, his posture alert as it usually was when working. "Has anything changed at home recently?" Mitchell had asked, observing how Lily flinched at a sound from upstairs. "Marcus is under a lot of pressure. Regarding his business, we all are," Claire responded a bit too quickly. "He's a good provider. We're very fortunate." When Marcus Ellis came out of his office a few minutes later, his handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Officer, I understand your concern, but I want to assure you that everything is well here. Lily is simply adjusting to her new school. Doesn't that right, Princess?" Lily had nodded obediently. However, Apollo's subtle growl was audible only to Mitchell's trained ear. Back at the precinct, Mitchell couldn't shake his unease about the Anderson-Ellis home visit. Apollo's behavior had been unusual enough to warrant a note in his report, something he rarely needed to do with his meticulously trained partner. The following morning, Mitchell requested the case file pertaining to the family. An initial review revealed nothing overtly suspicious. Marcus Ellis possessed a clean record, serving as CEO of Ellis Development and acting as a significant philanthropist with connections to many of Chicago's prominent figures. Claire Anderson Ellis had discontinued her career following her marriage to Ellis. And Lily, a student previously achieving straight A grades, had not previously raised any concerns among teachers or counselors. Officer Mitchell was joined by Dr. Rebecca Torres, the department's child psychologist, at his desk. "I noticed your flag regarding the Anderson-Ellis welfare check. I'd like to understand what led to it." During our meeting, Mitchell detailed Apollo's reactions and the nuanced interactions he observed. Torres explained that children who experience controlling environments often develop particular coping strategies. "The extreme stillness you mentioned, the scripted responses, can be signs of that, although not conclusive proof. It warrants further consideration. The dog's behavior is also noteworthy. These animals are capable of detecting stress hormones, subtle facial expressions, and even shifts in breathing that humans might not notice." Over the subsequent 2 weeks, Mitchell scheduled multiple follow-up appointments at the Anderson residence. The observations remained the same. Apollo's atypical focus on Lily, the child's slight decrease in anxiety near the dog, and Marcus Ellis's growing frustration with the police investigations. On one occasion when Ellis was not present, Mitchell noted Lily's inherent connection with Apollo. "He's a very special dog," Mitchell said as she cautiously stroked Apollo's fur. He had been trained to understand specific signals, methods of communication without verbal interaction. Lily's eyes widened. "Like secret codes?" Mitchell confirmed. "Exactly like that. Apollo knows dozens of commands that appear as typical movements to everyone else." Something in Lily's expression changed, a glimmer of interest that seemed to break through her carefully constructed demeanor. Following that visit, Mitchell spoke with his sergeant regarding his increasing worries. Sergeant Diaz told him that Ellis had submitted a formal complaint concerning Mitchell's repeated visits and had expedited the custody hearing. Ellis is requesting full custody of Lily, alleging Claire is emotionally unstable. That's a classic example of isolation tactics, Mitchell stated. I understand that, and you know that, Diaz replied. However, Ellis has relationships with the police commissioner and many judges in Cook County. Relying solely on a dog's actions and personal feelings isn't enough. 2 days prior to the custody hearing, Mitchell made a choice that could possibly impact his career. He planned to meet Claire and Lily at a small park close to their home, bringing Apollo as part of a community dog demonstration. As Claire was talking with another parent, Mitchell positioned himself next to Lily on a quiet bench. Lily, do you recall when I mentioned that Apollo responds to specific cues? He inquired, maintaining a relaxed tone as the child stroked the German Shepherd. She responded affirmatively, her gaze frequently shifting to her mother, ensuring they weren't being observed. I'm going to show you a special one, Mitchell said, using a discreet gesture, his fingers briefly touching and then parting, resembling the smoothing of an unseen sheet. When Apollo witnesses this, he understands that immediate assistance is required. Lily rehearsed the gesture multiple times. Her small fingers mirrored Mitchell's actions. Apollo observed closely, his training surfacing as he detected a new directive being set. This is just between us, Mitchell clarified. Sometimes adults struggle to grasp when children require assistance. But Apollo consistently understands. What occurs when he observes it? Lily inquired, her voice a soft whisper. He responds to safeguard whoever initiates the signal. It is his most vital responsibility. A subtle change crossed the child's face, a brief spark of hope instantly concealed by a familiar composure. Her gaze drifted toward the playground. Marcus doesn't like dogs, she observed. Lily, Mitchell said with deliberate care, if you ever feel scared or unsafe, this signal works anywhere. Apollo can see it, even in places where people aren't supposed to talk, like court. The question highlighted the depth of her understanding of her circumstances, surpassing what would be expected of an 8-year-old. As Mitchell confirmed, his heart felt burdened by the possibility of overstepping professional limits. The morning of the custody hearing dawned with a palpable tension. Judge Eleanor Wilson was well known, 23 years on the bench had established her as a figure of both reverence and apprehension within Chicago's legal community. Mitchell was seated in the gallery's second row, Apollo lying at his feet in a full-service harness. His arrival initially drew attention, but Mitchell possessed the necessary authorization. K-9 officers were not obligated to be separated from their partners during testimony. Claire Anderson was seated next to her attorney, Janet Kaplan, a skilled but visibly less experienced family law specialist. The difference in legal representation was striking. Ellis's team presented matching leather portfolios, while Kaplan carried a slightly worn briefcase. Marcus Ellis entered the room with the air of someone accustomed to authority, acknowledging Judge Wilson with a comfortable nod. Mitchell observed how multiple court personnel adjusted their posture as he walked by, a quiet indication of respect afforded to those of prominence. Ellis paused to greet an individual in the gallery, a man Mitchell identified as an aide to a police commissioner. Ellis's lead attorney, Lawrence Henderson, commenced their presentation. The account he delivered was carefully constructed. Claire Anderson, portraying a mother struggling with emotional instability, fabricated worries regarding her daughter to create distance between them and a caring stepfather. Images of family vacations, school events, and charitable galas were displayed on a presentation screen, depicting what appeared to be a flawless modern family. Mrs. Anderson Ellis's behavior has escalated into heightened paranoia, Henderson reported, leading to several unwarranted police welfare checks that have deeply affected the child. Claire's testimony followed, her voice becoming more even as she detailed the alterations in Lily's behavior since Marcus had exerted greater control. She ceased discussing her daily activities and stopped entertaining friends. She adheres to guidelines I did not establish. Henderson's cross-examination was precise. Isn't it true, Mrs. Ellis, that you've received treatment for anxiety and tend to transfer your anxieties onto your daughter? The courtroom felt charged with unstated accusations by the time Mitchell was asked to testify. He moved towards the witness stand, Apollo keeping a steady stance nearby. Mitchell detailed only the information recorded in official reports: Lily's behavior, the conditions at home, and the interactions he observed. He omitted any discussion of Apollo's responses or his personal doubts, anticipating immediate objections based on them being considered speculation. Henderson's cross-examination unfolded precisely as Mitchell had foreseen, suggesting that Mitchell had exceeded his authority and shown prejudice against Marcus Ellis. Throughout the proceedings, Apollo remained motionless beside the witness stand, although Mitchell sensed the slight tightness in his partner's posture. As Mitchell concluded his questioning, Judge Wilson declared, "I'd like to speak with Lily Anderson in my chambers. Parents, attorneys may observe, but parents will remain here." Requests from the judge weren't uncommon in contentious custody disputes, but Mitchell observed how Ellis subtly leaned forward, his hand tightening on the table's edge. For the first time, a fissure emerged in his seemingly flawless demeanor. Judge Wilson's chambers provided a noticeable difference from the official courtroom, featuring bookshelves filled with legal references and a relaxed seating space intended to comfort children. A court reporter was situated quietly in the corner, while the attorneys arranged themselves near the wall. Peeking through a slightly ajar door, Mitchell observed Lily settled in a large leather chair facing the judge. Apollo stayed with Mitchell in the courtroom, both having a visible view into the chambers via the doorway. The dog's focus hadn't shifted. His dark eyes were intently fixed on Lily, a gaze that would have worried Mitchell under different conditions. "Lily, do you know why we are all here today?" Judge Wilson inquired, her usually firm voice gentled. The child responded, her answer sounding practiced even from afar, "Because her mom and Marcus were fighting about her." "That's right, and my job is to figure out what's best for you." She needed Lily to tell her the truth about how things were at home. "Can you do that?" Lily nodded, her hands tightly clasped in her lap. "Do you feel safe at home with your mom and Marcus?" "Yes, Your Honor." The words came quickly, but Mitchell noticed the slight tremble in Lily's shoulders. Judge Wilson proceeded with typical inquiries regarding school, daily life at home, and Lily's relationships with both parents. Lily's responses were consistently courteous and well-mannered, but they grew increasingly stiff and rehearsed. "Lily, has anyone instructed you on what to say to me today?" the judge asked pointedly. The child's gaze shifted briefly toward Ellis's attorney before returning to her lap. "No, Your Honor." The judge pressed, "Are you certain? It's permissible to tell me if someone has." The room fell silent. Mitchell sensed Apollo's muscles tightening next to him. "Marcus instructed me to convey my happiness," Lily finally whispered. "He stated that unfavorable consequences would befall Mom if I failed to do so." Ellis's attorney approached. "Your Honor, I object," he began. Judge Wilson halted him with a raised hand. "Mr. Henderson, you are present solely as an observer. Save your objections for the courtroom," she stated. "What sort of bad things?" Judge Wilson inquired softly. The child's eyes filled with tears. Before she could respond, Marcus Ellis abruptly entered the courtroom, forcing open the main chamber door and appearing visibly angry. "This is outrageous. She's being manipulated." Court officials attempted to restrain him, but Ellis was already advancing towards the chambers. In that crucial moment, Mitchell noticed something. Lily's small hand performed the quiet gesture they had rehearsed, her fingers briefly touching and then parting in a movement so delicate it would have been overlooked by anyone not intently observing. Apollo's response was immediate. Even before Mitchell could give a spoken instruction, the German Shepherd sprang forward with forceful accuracy, covering the space between them and the chambers in seconds. As court officers reached for their weapons, the gallery burst with shocked cries, and Judge Wilson stood up. "Order," she declared, her powerful voice silencing the room. Everyone froze except Apollo, who moved past the bailiff and stood directly before Lily's chair, creating a shield between her and the doorway. Mitchell hurried forward. "Apollo, hold." He gave the order, even though the dog had already adopted a measured, protective posture instead of a threatening one. Precisely as his training instructed for the signal Lily had provided, the courtroom erupted into disorder. Alice was held back by court officers, yelling about that dangerous animal, His lawyers requested Apollo's prompt removal. Claire rose, her expression a mixture of bewilderment and optimism. Everyone will be silent. Judge Wilson's voice pierced the commotion. Officer Mitchell, please describe the events that occurred. Mitchell stood at attention, keenly aware of the precariousness of his career. Your Honor, Apollo responded to a distress signal. What distress signal? The judge inquired. Before Mitchell could respond, Lily spoke, her voice gaining strength as she moved to stand beside Apollo, one hand resting on his back. I did it. I gave him the secret signal. The courtroom became silent, all eyes fixed on the small girl who appeared to have suddenly found her voice. Marcus hurts me, she continued, the words flowing out as if a barrier had given way. He tells me no one will believe me because he is influential. He compels me to rehearse what to say to teachers and doctors. He also hurts Mom when she attempts to intervene. Apollo remained motionless next to her, his training enabling him to maintain a protective stance while remaining non-aggressive, acting as a living barrier between Lily and the man she feared. Judge Wilson's expression changed from shock to firm determination. Officer Mitchell, please proceed to the bench with your K-9. Bailiff, secure Mr. Ellis. Court reporter, please ensure every word is transcribed. Your Honor, I can explain, Mitchell began, standing before Judge Wilson with Apollo and Lily beside him. You instructed my K-9 partner to respond to a signal from Lily, a nonverbal distress signal that she could use if she felt threatened or unsafe. I concede it was an unusual course of action, Judge Wilson concluded, her intense focus assessing him. How long had you been preparing for this, Officer Mitchell? 3 days, Your Honor, Mitchell replied, following several welfare visits where Apollo and I both noted troubling behaviors. The judge then shifted her gaze to Lily, who remained with one hand gently on Apollo's back. Lily, did Officer Mitchell instruct you to make these statements concerning your stepfather? No, ma'am, Lily responded, her voice quiet but more distinct than previously. He simply demonstrated how to contact Apollo should I feel frightened. He stated Apollo would comprehend even if adults did not. And what prompted your fear today? The judge inquired. Lily briefly looked toward Ellis, whose eyes glowed with intense anger. Because Marcus indicated that if I shared what occurs at home, he would cause Mom to disappear permanently. He stated that no one would believe me, given his familiarity with the judges and police chiefs. Ellis's lead attorney moved forward. Your Honor, these are demonstrably false accusations. The officer has undermined his K-9's training to influence a child into M. You'll receive no concessions in my courtroom, Mr. Henderson. Judge Wilson abruptly interrupted him. Accompanied by Apollo, Lily's statements flowed more easily. She recounted a pattern of deliberate psychological abuse, including being confined to her room for errors, such as toys left out, and being compelled to recite pre-prepared responses before school daily, along with witnessing Marcus threaten her mother while believing she was asleep. He maintains a dedicated room in the basement for disciplinary actions, she shared, her voice barely audible, noting it has a timer on the door. She stated that if she cried or made noise, he would extend the duration. Claire covered her mouth, her face displaying visible shock. The renovation project, she murmured. He said it was a wine cellar. I've never even seen it finished. Ellis moved forward again, despite the restraining hands. This is absurd. The dog charged at me. This entire proceeding is compromised. Judge Wilson had heard enough. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Ellis to the holding area. I'm issuing an immediate emergency protective order for both Lily and Claire Anderson. As Ellis was removed, still protesting, Judge Wilson turned to Mitchell. Officer, although your procedures were unusual, they seem justified. I request that Apollo's training records and a complete report on the signal system you implemented be submitted to this court by tomorrow. Furthermore, she continued, speaking to the entire court, I am ordering an immediate search of the Ellis residence, particularly the basement area Lily described, and a thorough investigation into these allegations. Mitchell stepped forward. Your Honor, with your permission, Apollo and I would like to help with that search. His training in identifying signs of distress could prove beneficial. Judge Wilson indicated her agreement. Court reporter, please Please record that I am formally requesting the presence of Officer Mitchell and K9 Apollo to carry out the search warrant. The judge then looked directly at Lily, her serious expression becoming gentler. Lily, what Apollo did today demonstrated great courage, and so did you. Lily smiled for the first time since Mitchell had known her. It was a real smile that changed her face, moving it from the appearance of a frightened child to one showing the beginning of restored confidence. As Mitchell and Apollo exited the courtroom, they discovered the hallway in a managed state of disorder. Ellis was undergoing processing for transfer to holding, his costly suit seeming out of place with the handcuffs on his wrists. Noticing Mitchell and Apollo, his calm demeanor shattered entirely. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "Do you have any idea who I am? Who my friends are?" Mitchell maintained Apollo in a perfect heel position, the dog's disciplined composure sharply contrasting with Ellis's loss of control. "Mr. Ellis, I suggest you reserve your comments for your lawyer." Ellis unexpectedly strained against the officer's hold, his face twisted. "That dog should be put down." "And you?" Apollo remained balanced, showing no reaction to the sudden movement, reinforcing his remarkable training. One of the officers noted calmly that the charges now included threatening a police officer. Detective Sophia Reyes approached Mitchell, an experienced investigator with Chicago PD's Special Victims Unit. She had been called in immediately following Judge Wilson's orders. "That's something else, Mitchell," she said, nodding toward Apollo. "Judge Wilson has already signed the search warrant for Ellis's home. We move in 30 minutes. A search of the Ellis residence confirmed Lily's account. A soundproofed room in the basement, presented as a wine cellar but featuring a complex locking system and timer. CSI technicians meticulously documented all details, including the camera surveillance system and the small cot located in the corner. "He recorded it all," Reyes stated softly, showing Mitchell a concealed panel containing digital storage devices. The payments were likely his insurance, intended to ensure the child and mother cooperated. Now, this serves as evidence that will likely result in a lengthy prison sentence for him. Apollo systematically examined the area, identifying specific locations that subsequently yielded further evidence, including a child's drawings concealed beneath the cot, which caused even the experienced investigators to become silent. At the courthouse, Claire and Lily waited in a secure conference room, accompanied by Dr. Torres. Upon Mitchell and Apollo's return, Lily rushed to the dog, embracing him with a trust that was unmistakable. "Thank you," Claire said to Mitchell, her voice calm for the first time since he'd met her, "for believing what I couldn't even fully see." "Apollo deserves the credit," Mitchell replied. "He knew something was wrong from that first day." Dr. Torres arrived, holding a notepad. "Judge Wilson has prioritized this case significantly. Ellis's bail hearing is already set, but considering the evidence gathered today and his conduct in court, it is improbable he will be released on bail." Detective Reyes shared an update. Ellis's known contacts are attempting to separate themselves from the situation. 2 individuals have already provided accounts detailing things they observed. Judge Wilson entered the conference room, having removed her judicial robes and opting for a cardigan and slacks. She lowered herself to Lily's level. She stated softly, "What you did today has assisted us in understanding the situation. You demonstrated considerable bravery." Lily glanced at the judge. "Apollo helped me be brave." Wilson offered a smile, then addressed Mitchell. "Officer, the court will be formally recognizing both you and Apollo. Your actions, though unorthodox, reflected the most important values of safeguarding and assistance." Wilson added that he would be seeking advice from child advocacy specialists regarding the establishment of a structured canine assistance program to support children experiencing trauma within the court system. The events observed today indicate potential avenues that warrant thorough investigation. As the judge left the room, Mitchell approached Apollo, gently stroking the dog's smooth fur. What started as a standard welfare check had evolved into a situation that could potentially alter how the legal system safeguards its most vulnerable individuals. Claire moved forward with Lily at her side. "Officer Mitchell," the doctor stated, "we should aim to create consistent routines in the coming days." Lily inquired, "Is it possible for Apollo to come visit sometime?" Lily concluded, her voice more assertive than Mitchell had ever observed it. Mitchell smiled. "Apollo and I would be delighted. He demonstrates considerable skill with board games, though he consistently requests to be the dog piece in Monopoly. This light-hearted remark elicited the second authentic smile observed from Lily, a valuable indication of a child starting the gradual return to a typical childhood. Have you ever observed the remarkable intuition of a service animal? Apollo's story serves as a reminder that, at times, animals can perceive things that humans may overlook, identifying emotions, fears, and needs that are unexpressed. They frequently demonstrate a greater understanding of nonverbal cues and behavioral alterations than we possess. What indicators do you believe animals notice that humans overlook? Research indicates dogs can identify changes in our bodily chemistry, microexpressions, and even minor adjustments in our breathing. Apollo's training amplified these innate talents, yet numerous pet owners share comparable experiences of their animals sensing distress, illness, or danger prior to its obviousness. Could you rely on a canine officer's judgment in a courtroom setting? Apollo's unusual behavior in Judge Wilson's courtroom sparks interesting discussions about potentially integrating these remarkable animals further into our justice system, particularly when safeguarding vulnerable witnesses who may struggle to communicate openly. Please share your opinions and experiences in the comments. Have you ever observed an animal perceive something before people noticed? We'd be interested in reading your stories. If you found Apollo and Officer Mitchell's story moving, please subscribe and enable notifications to ensure you don't miss future stories of incredible canine heroes. Our channel features extraordinary accounts of police dogs going above and beyond. Share this video with friends and family who appreciate the remarkable bond between handlers and their canine partners. For more incredible stories of loyal heroes who serve and protect, please watch our previous videos, which are appearing on your screen now. Remember, sometimes the most powerful voice for justice doesn't speak at all. It barks.